Most entrepreneurs think that they're building a business, but what they actually create for themselves is just a stressful job that they can't escape from. And what happens over time is they habituate to the chaos and they feel that running at 100 miles an hour is just normal life. So if their business is messy and a grind, that's just a normal workday. Now, I don't believe in this at all. I'm going to share some principles with you today that will help you build your business in the right way for strong growth, but also for calm growth for you as the owner. And I'll explain why that's not an optional path to growth, but actually the optimal path to growth. Now, this isn't a theoretical idea. Everything I'm going to share with you today is being battle tested. I've spent over 10 years building and exiting online education businesses. I've built and sold 2 7-figure companies. I've made millions of dollars from selling digital products and services online. I've built multiple big brands and my companies have served over 20 million users. So I'm sharing the real lessons here from that journey, not classroom theory or hype, just the real experience of being an online entrepreneur, building big revenue and exiting companies, and more importantly, living that happy and healthy life along the way. All right, let's get to work. Okay, let's start with an easy one. If your business feels chaotic, it needs a different structure. Most businesses start off very simple. There's one customer, then a few customers, then more customers. And slowly what happens over time is complexity creeps in. And that's just, natural. That's in service of the evolution of the business. So quite often what will happen is there might be different offers, there'll be marketing experiments, there might even be some custom work happening, the team is growing and so on. That's just how businesses evolve. Now, in the moment, none of this feels like a problem. You just think that you're growing the business. But what happens is in most businesses, despite these changes, lots of things still depend on the founder. And that means that operations inevitably start to get messy. Revenue is capped at wherever the founder's bandwidth is. So usually what happens is the founder runs around like crazy to sustain everything and to try and make more money. And that's how entrepreneurs accidentally build businesses that create stress instead of freedom. Now, if this is you, don't feel bad. I think this is where almost everybody goes, especially if this is your first company. This is the path of least resistance. It's usually where everybody ends up. So how do we fix it? Well, the key point here is this. You should be the least important person in your business. The whole thing needs to operate without you, or at least 95% of it should happen without you. Most of the time, your contributions should be supplementary, not required. Now, you can't get there overnight. It might take a month or a year for you to get there, depending on your model, but that must be the end goal. You must be building a structure towards that as the business grows. Without that structure, the only possible outcome is either A, you have a stressful job, or B, revenue will plateau once your bandwidth is fully consumed, or C, both of those things occur. So to recap here, chaos and stress is caused by implementing the wrong structure in your business. The correct structure is the one that incrementally removes dependency on the founder. A calm business produces strong results without constant emotional stress for the founder. Success without peace isn't success, it's failure. When people talk about scaling a business, they're usually talking about revenue numbers. 6 figures, 7 figures, 8 figures, 9 figures. But revenue is just one dimension. It's super important, but it's just one dimension. Now, selfishly, from an entrepreneur's perspective, if we think about the experience of your life, what really matters is, how does the business feel to run for the owner? Are profits predictable? Do your systems handle most of the work? Can you take a family holiday without everything breaking? Now, here's a weird question that you don't hear very often. How would your business look if you were optimizing it for your emotional well-being? That's a weird question to ask, isn't it? You don't hear that much in the online business space. The hustle harder business bros, they're not asking that question. But consider it. How would your business look if you were optimizing it for your emotional well-being? Now, this matters for lots of reasons, not least your health and longevity. But also because, drum roll, the sooner you reduce your business's dependency on you, the faster it can grow. The best founders that I know, they don't look stressed or frantic or tired. They look relaxed, they're healthy, they're comfortable in their own skin. Things are growing in a way that's sustainable. Their businesses run smoothly because the structure is strong. The team and the systems do the heavy lifting. So I'll say it again. Chaos and stress is caused by implementing the wrong structure in your business. The correct structure is the one that incrementally removes dependency on the founder. So let's talk about specifically how we do that and what needs to change. If your business feels messy and chaotic, it often comes down to 3 structural issues. First of all, custom work is required. So the worst scenario here would be every customer is different, every solution is different, nothing is repeatable. Second, you have a lack of consistency in your marketing. So marketing usually happens in bursts of activity, but it isn't consistent. Maybe you don't have settled offers, but your offers might be changing. And in general, your strategy shifts every month or every quarter. Third, lack of systems, which leads to weak and inconsistent execution across the board. And that combination eventually creates stress. So what's the antidote to this? Well, if chaos usually comes from three things: custom work, inconsistency, and lack of systems, calm businesses invert those three things. No custom work, be consistent, implement strong systems. So when we say no custom work, what do we mean? Well, it's actually really simple. Everything is productized and repeatable. Delivery has the same structure for each customer. Number two, be consistent. Consistency is God. Stick to one strategy for at least a year, one marketing plan, one offer. Show up, have weekly non-negotiables for you and your team. And think about it like this: consistency is a choice. It's as simple as that. You can go round and round the circles with this stuff, but it ultimately boils down to that. Consistency is a choice. And number three, implement strong systems, and the outcome will be strong, consistent execution across the board. Calm businesses replace inconsistency and chaos with strong, repeatable systems. And that is the entire game. That's the whole game. Let me give you a simple example of this in practice, just so you've got, I guess, something more concrete that you can have in mind. So one of my previous companies, we used to have a team of writers, and the results that we got from the writers were often inconsistent. So what we did was, instead of just hiring people to write with sort of broad guidelines around what we wanted them to write, we actually sent them templates that made sure that every submission that they sent to us was already in the format that we wanted. Now, it made it kind of formulaic, but guess what? In order for a business to scale and grow, formulaic is actually most of the time a great thing, because that is what productized, strong systems, consistency, robust, repeatable processes actually look like. So we went from a place where we were spending lots of time editing the submissions from writers for our content team to a place where the submissions that we were receiving from writers, they were already mostly there. Now, it took probably, I don't know, a week to create this epic template that would be, super usable and easy for people to submit the writing to us in the format that we wanted. But wow, that time that we spent preparing that template, we got that back in hundreds and hundreds of man hours, and it allowed us to move faster, scale things up more, to the point where we were producing hundreds of pieces of writing really quickly, every week. That simply would not have been possible in those pre-AI days if we hadn't have had such strong systems and templates in place. So that's just an easy example of a simple system being put in place to create consistent and repeatable outcomes. Okay, so let's dig into this in more detail and look at the principles that you need to follow. These are the things that you need to install into your business to bring about real change. Revenue stress usually begins with inconsistent marketing. A calm business needs reliable lead flow. That means new potential customers enter your world every week. Not through luck, not through coincidence, but through reliable systems, content, email lists, ads, partnerships, referrals. When demand is predictable, the entire business becomes calmer. You can't have a calm business without good lead flow. Revenue stability begins with lead flow stability. I exited one of my companies last year, and the lead flow of that business was around 230 leads a day. So around 6,000 fresh leads a month would enter the sales funnel. Now, there are issues downstream of that, of course, in sales and delivery. But do you think lead flow was a problem for that company? Not at all. A calm business needs reliable lead flow. It's the lifeblood of the business. Remember, revenue stress is usually caused by inconsistent marketing. So what do we need? Well, principle number one is we need to implement consistent marketing so we can establish reliable lead flow. Here's a quick test. If somebody asks you what you do, can you explain it in one sentence? Most entrepreneurs can't. They ramble a bit, they say something a bit vague, or they give a long explanation that confuses people and usually gets a bit boring. And when that happens, of course, sales is harder than it needs to be. So you need to have a clear one-line pitch. Every business should have a single sentence that explains who you help, what result you deliver, and how you do it. And when this sentence is strong enough, sales becomes much easier because people instantly understand whether your solution is for them or not. I use a simple structure for this that I call the ABC pitch. A is the avatar, who you help. B is the better future, the result that they want. And C is the cool feature, like how you deliver the result. So the formula basically is, I help who achieve result using method. So a couple of examples of that would be, I help people who want to stop smoking in 30 days using cognitive planning. Or I help overweight men lose their beer belly in 60 days using the fat burn method. Or I help struggling guitar players with busy lives learn fingerstyle guitar in a 2-day crash course. And here's mine. I help online entrepreneurs build calm 7-figure businesses they can scale or sell using my Zen Build system. They're all very clear one-line pitches. When your problem is defined, the outcome is clear, and your method sounds, cool and distinctive, the value you bring is obvious. And when the value is obvious, sales becomes much easier. If you'd like me to personally coach you and help you build a calmer, more profitable business, head to boldfreedom.com or scan the QR code that's on the screen. Great sales systems remove pressure from the founder. A calm business doesn't rely on constant sales calls or persuasion. Instead, it builds conversion systems. Now, this will look different depending on your model, but broadly you need qualification processes, funnels, sales assets with strong copy. Your sales conversion structure should begin way earlier than the point of sale. Your goal should be to ensure that the right customers arrive already convinced. Don't just try and convince people with a sales page or a sales call, especially for coaching or high ticket stuff. The sale is already made much earlier on in the process. Nowadays, that tends to happen through content. Principle number 4 is implement productized delivery. The most scalable businesses repeat the same solution. Instead of reinventing the solution for every customer, they have productized delivery. Now, what do I mean by that? Productized delivery means that you solve the same problem using the same structure every time. There needs to be a repeatable process that your customers move through. This dramatically reduces complexity and makes it much easier to scale delivery. Repeatable delivery creates predictable outcomes, and predictable outcomes for your customers means they solve their problems, so they're happy. And for you, that not only gets you more testimonials and social proof, but also those predictable outcomes mean that you can see clear LTV numbers, so you know exactly how much you can spend on paid traffic to acquire more customers and still make big profits on the back end. So for many founders, that is the difference between a 7-figure and an 8-figure business. So if we think about founder A, a 7-figure founder who doesn't know what their LTV is, they can't pay for ads with confidence, even though that's probably the route to an 8-figure business. Then we have founder B, and they do know what their LTV is, so they can spend money on ads to acquire new customers with confidence they're going to make a profit on the back end. So perhaps the best consequence of having strong productized delivery is that it enables a route to scale that would otherwise not be available. Now, can all of this be done without productized delivery? Yeah, technically, yeah, but it'd be way harder to do and definitely less calm. A client of mine runs an agency. He hired me because he was overwhelmed and on the verge of a major burnout. He did not have productized delivery in place. He was mostly creating bespoke solutions for each new client. Basically, he was reinventing the wheel again and again. And sometimes his solutions worked and sometimes they didn't. So guess what happened? Well, if repeatable delivery creates predictable outcomes, what does unrepeatable delivery create? Unpredictable outcomes, basically lots of stress. So we've modified his offer so that now he only focuses on clients who it's easy to get results for. And because each client is the same profile, he can have productized delivery with repeatable systems that create predictable outcomes for his clients and him. Don't reinvent your solution for every customer. Have productized delivery. Remember, productized delivery means you solve the same problem using the same structure every single time. How would things be different for you if all of your clients had the same profile? Maybe they're all in the same industry or they use the same business model. Who could you create productized delivery for? Which clients of yours is it easy for you to get results for? You can build and scale your whole business around that subset, that profile of customer. This is the path to scale. If your business stops when you stop, it isn't a real business yet. When everything depends on you, growth is exhausting. Every decision, every task, every problem. Systems solve this. Standard operating procedures, automation, team roles. The goal is simple. The business should function even when you step away. I've built and exited multiple businesses and they sometimes had record sales months while I was on extended holidays. That's a sign of a business with strong systems that aren't reliant on the owner. Businesses like that are assets that are owned by the founder. They are not stressful jobs that are operated by a founder. You should be an owner, not an operator. If you don't understand your numbers, your business will never feel calm. One of the most overlooked parts of a calm business is financial clarity. You must have strong financial systems and reporting in place. As a minimum, You should know your current cash position, your profit margins, your tax obligations. Are you accruing correctly? You need to have visibility of some basic forecasts. And without all of this, you're just operating in the dark. And in my experience, it creates a kind of low-level background stress. I did this for years. My only indicator was, is the bank balance going up? You know, you need to keep strict accounts. You need to know your numbers, and then you can make decisions confidently with more insight and understanding of what's going on under the hood about this asset that you own. The best way to do this, I think, is to build a financial team. Get a bookkeeper, an accountant, a fractional CFO if you need one, a financial advisor. That's all you need. Tell them all how you want it to look in terms of reporting, what you want help with, you know, how often do you want to have meetings with them and so on. But you have to tell them what you want to see. Make them build you a dashboard in Xero or QuickBooks or whatever you use, and then you can see the information that you need to at a glance. A really good tip is to get them all on a conference call every 6 months, or you can spend lots of time going back and forth between them where their roles sort of overlap and don't overlap. The accountant will say you need to speak to your financial advisor. The financial advisor will say you need to speak to your accountant. Sometimes it's easier to just get them all on a call. But the main thing, I think, is that you have a financial dashboard that you can consult on any given day at any moment that will give you the key insights that you need to see with data that's accurate. And then that becomes your source of truth to make, you know, all of your business decisions. For founders, having clarity over your finances creates a sense of psychological calm. Without that, I think there's always this low-level stress that's in the background. Calm businesses often make more money, and I think that's because calm businesses usually have strong systems in place. So they have predictable demand in terms of lead flow, they have strong sales funnels, they have clear offers, productized delivery, and everything's repeatable. So guess what? Naturally, that lends itself to better scalability. One of the ironies of entrepreneurship is the calmer a business becomes, the more powerful it usually is. Another way to express this, and a business motto I live by, is a business that's ready to be sold is a pleasure to own. And that's why you should always build to sell. Building your business to sell it creates a stronger business that's less reliant on the founder, and by its nature, it must have a team and strong systems in place. There's 5 very cool things about this that benefit you directly. Number 1, the business is much more likely to grow and keep growing. Number 2, it makes the business calmer and more pleasant to own. Number 3, it makes your business much more attractive to buyers. Number 4, it increases the value of your asset in terms of the multiple that you can expect when you exit. And 5, it means you can exit at any time, should you choose to. There's no downside to building a business to sell it. So whether you choose to sell it or not, it's up to you. But this is the optimal way to build a company. So those are the principles of owning a calm and strong business. Establish reliable lead flow, craft a clear one-line pitch, install high conversion sales systems, use productized delivery, implement strong systems so you are not the bottleneck, create total financial clarity. When these things are in place, being an entrepreneur is a lot more enjoyable. Everything is calm, growth is easy, and your asset is always increasing in value. If you'd like me to personally coach you and help you build a calmer, stronger, more profitable business, head to boldfreedom.com. And if you want more thinking like this, sign up for my weekly email newsletter. The link for that is in the description. And if you'd like to see how I diagnose the single biggest growth problem inside a business, watch the next video where I explain the one power question that every entrepreneur should ask themselves every single day.